So Montaigne was previously talking about places that were once wrenched apart by a violent convulsion, whereas they had formerly been one single land, referring to Atlantis. And he goes on, there is little likelihood of that island's being the new world which we have recently discovered, for it was virtually touching Spain. It would be unbelievable for a flood to force it back more than 1,200 leagues to where it is now. Besides, our modern seamen have already all but discovered that it is not an island at all, but a mainland, contiguous on one side with the East Indies, and on others with lands lying beneath both the poles. Or that if it is separated from them, it is by straits so narrow that it does not deserve the name of island on that account. It seems that large bodies such as these are subject, as are our own, to changes, some natural, some feverish. When I consider how my local river, the Dordogne, has, during my own lifetime, been encroaching on the right-hand bank going downstream, and has taken over so much land that it has robbed many buildings of their foundation, I realise that it has been suffering from some unusual upset, for if it had always gone on like this, or were to do so in the future, the whole face of the world would be distorted. But their moods change. Sometimes they incline one way, then another, and sometimes they restrain themselves. I am not discussing those sudden floodings whose causes we know. By the coastline in Médoc, my brother the Sieur d'Arsac can see lands of his lying buried under sand spewed up by the sea. The tops of some of the buildings are still visible. His rents and arable fields have been changed into very sparse grazing. The locals say that the sea has been thrusting so hard against them for some time now that they have lost 4 leagues of land. These sands are the sea's pioneer core, and we can see those huge shifting sand dunes marching a half-league ahead in the vanguard, capturing territory. The other testimony from antiquity, which some would make relevant to this discovery, is in Aristotle, if that little book about unheard wonders is really his. He tells how some Carthaginians struck out across the Atlantic, beyond the Straits of Gibraltar, sailed for a long time, and finally discovered a large, fertile island entirely clothed in woodlands and watered by great deep rivers, but very far from any mainland. They, and others after them, attracted by the richness and fertility of the soil, emigrated with their wives and children and started living there. The Carthaginian lords, seeing that their country was being gradually depopulated, expressly forbade any more to go there on pain of death, and drove out those new settlers, fearing, it is said, that they would in time increase so greatly that they would supplant them and bring down their state. But that account in Aristotle cannot apply to these new lands either. That man of mine was a simple, rough fellow, qualities which make for a good witness. Those clever chaps notice things more carefully, but are always adding glosses. They cannot help changing their story a little in order to make their views triumph and be more persuasive. They never show you anything purely as it is. They bend it and disguise it to fit in with their own views. To make their judgment more credible and to win you over, they emphasize their own side, amplify it and extend it. So, you need either a very trustworthy man, or else a man so simple that he has nothing in him on which to build such false discoveries or make them plausible, and he must be wedded to no cause. Such was my man. Moreover, on various occasions he showed me several seamen and merchants whom he knew on that voyage. So I am content with what he told me, without inquiring what the cosmographers have to say about it. What we need is topographers, who would make detailed accounts of the places which they had actually been to. But because they have the advantage of visiting Palestine, they want to enjoy the right of telling us tales about all the rest of the world. I wish everyone would write only about what he knows, not in this matter only, but in all others. A man may well have detailed knowledge or experience of the nature of one particular river or stream, yet about all the others he knows only what everyone else does. But in order to trot out his little scrap of knowledge, he will write a book on the whole of physics. From this vice many great inconveniences arise. Now to get back to the subject. I find, from what has been told me, that there is nothing savage or barbarous about those peoples, but that every man calls barbarous anything he is not accustomed to. It is indeed the case that we have no other criterion of truth or right reason than the example and form of the opinions and customs of our own country. There we always find the perfect religion, the perfect polity, the most developed and perfect way of doing anything. Those savages are only wild in the sense that we call fruits wild when they are produced by nature in her ordinary course. Whereas it is fruit which we have artificially perverted and misled from the common order, which we ought to call savage. It is in the first kind that we find their true, vigorous, living, most natural and most useful properties and virtues, which we have bastardized in the other kind by merely adapting them to our corrupt tastes. Moreover, there is a delicious savour, which even our taste finds excellent, in a variety of fruits produced in those countries without cultivation. They rival our own. It is not sensible that artifice should be reverenced more than nature, our great and powerful mother. We have so overloaded the richness and beauty of her products by our own ingenuity that we have smothered her entirely. Yet wherever her pure light does shine, she wondrously shames our vain and frivolous enterprises. Et veniunt et responte sua melius, surgit et in solis formosio arbutus antris, et volucres nulla dulcius arte canunt. Ivy grows best when left untended. The strawberry tree flourishes more beautifully in lonely grottos, and birds sing the sweeter for their artlessness.